Hi, my name is Jake. I wanted to tell you, make this message, because if anything happens to me or any of my friends, somebody needs to know what's going on. I can't tell you where I live or my last name. You just have to trust me that what I'm talking about is real. This is a real place, a real town. It may even be your town. Okay.
Nickelodeon, Nickelodeon, yeah.
Winds howl, cut buckets. This is Big Orange Couch, the 90s Nickelodeon podcast, where we talk about all things 90s Nickelodeon. My name's Joey.
And I'm Andrew. And this is episode number 231. We're talking our top weird episodes.
Yeah, you ready to get weird?
Oh yeah. Kidding me?
Were you able to my intro there was a little reference to something that's going to be on my list. Were you able to identify it?
I thought maybe, but no, I have no idea what it could be.
Okay, well, we'll find out. Maybe for our real Nickelodeon nerds out there, maybe they were able to identify
maybe.
It. It's not easily identifiable, so
okay.
Yeah, so we came up with a couple options for people. We posted on Instagram. Were you surprised that this was the winner? I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, for sure. I thought there would be more interest maybe in crossover. But,
yeah, write an episode.
Yeah. So that's okay. I got one in the bank, though. An idea if we decide to do it.
For crossover?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we put up Renegade Virus episode review, another Grab Bag Versus, and a crossover writing episode. And I think those are three good ones that I think we will probably do sooner than later anyway. Before we get into that, we were just talking about it. This is the first time I think you and I have done a podcast alone without a guest in 2 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you know what? It wasn't on purpose, but let's just say that fits the weird criteria for this episode.
Yeah.
Is it tolerable to listen to just the two of us?
I hope so.
The people will tell us, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this was a fun idea, though. I had a couple in mind going into this, but it did take me a while to come up with the final list.
Oh my gosh, this is my hands down. This is my strangest list. I mean, in correspondence with the episode, this is, a very strange list. I will never have another list with these 5 shows.
Okay. I'm interested what you picked, because I have my own criteria, I guess, for what I'm considering weird, but I have a feeling that yours might be very different.
Yeah, I think it will be, and we'll jump into the criteria here in a minute of kind of what we were thinking, because I think I may have approached it maybe differently.
Okay. You know what? I did have something else to mention. In relation to last week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
I had some time to watch some movies this week, and among them, I watched both Best in Show and Mission Impossible 2.
That's okay. So my favorite movie of 2000 and my Ferguson.
Yeah.
Had you seen? You've seen both, though, right? Before.
I've seen parts of Best in Show, but I don't think I've seen any Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, okay. Okay, so what's the verdict here?
My feeling is I didn't love either of them.
Oh my God! You're telling me Best in Show isn't the third best movie you've ever seen?
Definitely not even close to that. I don't know if you have a personal connection with it or what.
I love dogs. I mean, I deeply love dogs.
Yeah, but did you see it years ago? The movie?
I saw it probably within a year of it coming out.
Okay. I could see that.
It's definitely one of those movies I watch every year.
Okay. Wow. All right. I think that I probably laughed more at Mission Impossible 2 than Best in Show. For the wrong reasons, you know.
My God.
Yeah, Best in Show, like, I liked it. It just felt like that format has come so far since then. There's so many shows and movies that have done it that have, like, I think improved upon it over the years, that this suddenly felt a little bit dated. And you know what I would have liked, actually? The first entire half of the movie is them on their way to the dog show. I say, get to the dog show and have all these, like, characters interacting with each other. That is what I would have preferred, for the whole movie.
So you're saying you liked Mission Impossible 2 more?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just, it was just funny, watching it. My favorite scene, so ridiculous. It's like, Tom Cruise explodes the doorway and there's flames surrounding it. And just like out of nowhere, it's a close up on the bad guy and like the flames like the reflection of the flames flickering in his eyes. It just like stylistically doesn't match anything that's happened so far.
Yeah.
And then the camera turns toward the doorway and an actual dove flies through the burning doorway. Like, what is happening?
Oh man, it's so John Woo. It's crazy. Yeah, and the distinction between the style of the first and the second, it's truly like whoever made. It's truly like it feels like John Woo didn't watch the first one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's like, I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna do everything.
Yeah. Well, this is our weird episode. Can I do something weird since we're on the topic?
Sure.
Can I read an email?
Oh, yeah.
All right. This one's from Nikki, and the name of it is Go to the Hotel and Get Busy Bee, which is Best in Show reference. Nikki says, "What's up, homies? I decided I should finally send you a proper email instead of a very long Instagram comment about my thoughts on the Year in Review 2000 episode. When it opened with the audio of La Bamba singing In the Year 2000, I knew it was straight up gonna be another banger from my favorite 90s nostalgia dudes. I may be biased, but I was ecstatic to hear the movie Best in Show receiving the love it deserves, at least from Joey. There are so many laugh-out-loud moments from the iconic Second City alums, and it simply should not be slept on as a film. Also wanted to mention that deviant art was totally a thing that many of my artsy friends used. Sorry, Lyndon. Hearing MXPX mentioned was a memory unlocked in my teenage pop-punk phase when I was safety pinning all of the things. I also agree that the Coldplay debut album was wonderful, and I didn't have full appreciation for Don't Panic until it made its appearance on the Garden State soundtrack in 2004. What a great and influential film for that time. It seemed to put indie music on the map for many people, and I'm looking forward to it being covered for the Year in Review 2004 episode. I always love that you share your viewers' picks in the episodes. It makes everyone feel like they're a part of the experience. As I have mentioned before on your Instagram, I have been listening since the beginning of your podcast and hope you never stop making material. Keep up the amazing work. I listen to this podcast when I mow the lawn, work in my garden, and sometimes when I walk my dogs. Always super feel good. Thanks for the effort to keep nostalgic moments alive and for being my go-to podcast. I miss the mid-90s the most, but I guess I'm ready to go into the 2000s with you guys. I'm still hopefully looking forward to more coverage of Clarissa, Salute Your Shorts, and Hey Dude, as they're my all-time favorite Nick shows, in that order. I do love that what you've covered, and I'm sure it's going to be difficult to squeeze in more content at this point. P.S. I have no idea what Bedazzled is, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. P.P.S. You may find it interesting that my name is Nikki, and my childhood nickname for years was actually Nickelodeon. Your fan, Nicopotamus, aka Nico. For years, I've been calling her Nico because of the Nicopotamus, but her name's Nikki. So,
I see.
I apologize, Nikki. I thought your name was Nico. But yeah, thank you for the
nice. Email. Yeah, really nice. Yeah. I'm not sure if Bedazzled, if you really need to go out and watch it immediately.
Oh yeah, I think you do.
You can probably wait.
No. No, I think you should watch it. All right, it's the weird episode. Andrew, how did you approach making your weird list?
I had a few episodes in mind. I kind of like knew the direction I was going, but I ultimately went with like what concept was not even always the concept, just like what had the most bizarre overall thing going on, I guess, in my estimation. And there's some that I discounted because it was weird, but I've seen a lot of shows do it, so it like suddenly hasn't become weird anymore. But so I went with I tried to go with like the really unique execution or idea or like whatever the main thing going on was.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I think we're going to have very different lists. Would you say you like some of the episodes you've picked?
Yes, I'd say I like all of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I opted for what I'm calling like a sincere weird rather than purposely weird.
Okay.
Like a type of weird that makes you feel weird because something about the filmmaking or story are off.
Okay.
I pinpointed that much of the time it's the dialogue and the delivery of it. Like it seems like maybe an alien wrote what they thought a human kids show might want to be.
Yeah.
So it's worth noting for my picks, I didn't pick anything that I would deem like a straight up comedy or was supposed to be funny.
Okay.
So this means shows that people are used to maybe hearing me talk about. I'm not going to be talking about. So yeah,
all of mine.
If the intention was to be odd, I kind of passed over it.
Oh, okay. I see. I would say like almost every episode of mine, we haven't talked about or mentioned probably.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. Yes, with one exception, kind of, we've not talked about most of these. Did you do a close call on Ferguson?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, me too. All right. Well, do you want to get into the list?
Sure.
All right.
Hey, my number 5 is an episode of Our Real Monsters called The Tree of Ickis.
You're a monster too?
Well, of course I'm a monster. You think something this ugly just happens in nature?
Well, how did you get here?
How did I get here? I was framed. Oh. Doggone squirrels. Look, kid, how does anyone get here? Same way you got here. I put something in my mouth that didn't belong. 527 years later, and I'm still here.
In this episode, Ickis, despite the warnings of the Grumble, eats like a weird nut or like fruit that falls off of a tree, and he starts to like grow branches out of his head and leaves and stuff, and suddenly his feet start growing roots and digging into the ground, and they finally Crumb and Oblina have to take him out to the woods because he's like turning into an actual tree.
I don't remember this episode super well, but I do remember Ickis looking like a tree.
Yeah, it's a memorable image.
Yeah.
And he runs into another monster that turned into a tree like hundreds of years earlier and has been sitting there as a tree ever since. And while Oblina and Crumb try to figure out a way to turn him back. And finally it ends up being termites for some reason. I'm not sure that makes any sense. But he like gets cut down in the episode and like almost gets taken to a sawmill and like almost gets sawed in half. But it's just such a weird concept. I really like it. Like, it's such a bizarre idea, that the monster could turn into a tree, and then taking it like one step further with the other monster, like they can get stuck here for hundreds of years in the body of a tree. So it's just kind of even like one step further than the usual Real Monsters bizarreness. I mean, it's already kind of weird, but I feel like this took it a extra level up.
Yeah. That's and you like that episode. It's not just weird.
Yeah.
You like
no, I like it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's one I have not seen for probably since like the 90s. So
yeah,
I'll have to go back and look at that. It's called Tree of Icus.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah. Tree of Icus. All right. Well, my number 5 is from a show that was acquired by Nickelodeon. It's from a show called Land of the Lost. And the episode is called Shang the Terrible.
Okay.
Shang, these are just IMDb summaries. Shang has an appetite for everything, including Tasha and the Porters. Shang, so in Land of the Lost, this is our episode that introduces us to the character of Shang. Shang, if you've not watched Land of the Lost ever or in a long time, is like a large lizard man who's essentially the like reoccurring enemy of the Porters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has
that name doesn't sound familiar.
He's got two like minions who also are like smaller lizards.
Yeah.
And so in this episode, the lizards steal Tasha. Right off the bat, it's so weird. The first shot of the episode are the lizard people breaking through the earth, making these weird hollering noises, and it's so perfect. Right at the start, one of them bends over to pick up what is a real lizard, and when they bend over, you can actually see their costume pull up and see like their white back, like the actor's skin. They keep referring to the fact that they're looking for big, fat, juicy lizards to bring back to their leader. They eventually hijack the Porter's car. They're trying to learn how to drive it. Like the back and forth between the lizards as they're in the Porter's car is so bonkers.
Hey, quit shoving!
I saw it first!
I told you, quit shoving!
What are you doing,
I
stupid?
didn't do nothing!
Well, stop it,
I
kid!
can't stop it!
Then me! Away!
But it is just kind of an incredibly fun and weird episode. It's like chaotic, but never boring. And the suits are very like the lizard suits. This is not the last time I'm going to say this on this list, but the lizard suits remind me a little bit of like Power Rangers bad guys. Like it's kind of cool to look at, but something's off about it.
Yeah.
So I like Land of the Lost a lot, and this episode was not one that stuck in my memory, but I went back and watched some because I knew that there had to be some weird ones here. And this episode of the, like, I'd say 5 that I watched was just so weird. Shang the Terrible. It is available free online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that show just being broadly bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess I know it's a remake, but it is just I don't know. Just one of those ideas. It's like, who came up with this, and then it like got through the process of becoming a show and actually happened.
Yeah, so weird. It's I just looked it up. It's available on Daily Motion. Shang the Terrible.
Okay.
I was gonna try to send you the picture of this guy.
Also, it makes no sense. Like, what's he doing back there? You know, it's like it's not just like a rift in time. It's also whatever this guy is.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you start picking it apart,
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Do you see him?
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Okay.
He looks pretty good, actually. I mean, bizarre, but it,
Yeah, I mean, once the mouth starts moving, it's not as good, but yeah. All right.
My number 4 is the Ren and Stimpy show, Jerry the Belly Button Elf.
Oh, sure.
Stimpy, climb inside. On await you if you climb inside.
Rainbow cinnamon gumdrop, lemon and purple people.
Great. In this one, Stimpy's like playing around with his belly button, and finally he like hears a voice coming out of it, and it tells him to climb into his belly button. So he climbs into his own belly button in this like awesomely weird psychedelic sequence, and falls inside himself and discovers Jerry the Belly Button Elf, voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. And he kind of like, he just makes Stimpy a slave, kind of, as Ren is like throwing a party in the apartment. And we get to see like a lot of different characters and stuff. Anyway, this Belly Button Elf is just very bizarre. This whole concept is so bizarre. And it kind of turns into like almost a monster movie at the end, with the Belly Button Elf becoming this like crazy creature. And also there's this other weird thing going on too. It's like Muddy Mudskipper's girlfriend that he brought to the party, and she's like eating this clam dip in this very bizarre way, and she's just bizarre looking, kind of. So it's just one of those episodes that always kind of like stuck in my mind, but also I felt going over these again, I felt was just the ultimate kind of like bizarre idea that kind of feels like it's not connected to anything else. I don't recognize it as like a reference or a throwback to anything. I love like the kind of monster movie nature of it, but it's just I feel like it's like kind of peak weird ideas for Ren and Stimpy. So yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to hate on anything that Gilbert Gottfried touched.
Sure.
It was also picked by Ryan Tyler Reed. He also
nice.
picked that as his weird pick. Yeah, I'll try to share some listeners' picks as we go.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, my number 4, I know you know it. This may be the episode so far that we both know the best. It is from a show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it is The Tale of the Laser Maze.
Don't be distracted by anything you see or hear. It's all part of the game. The laser maze is active. Initiate.
Oh, okay.
If I'm being honest, my first inclination when doing this list was I was going to make every episode Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because there's so many that to me are just so off-putting. Before I go into it, this episode, Ashley and Kara are athletic twin sisters who are always in competition with each other and find the ultimate game to test each other, a unique kind of laser tag in which the winners get cloned and sent to other planets to compete. Ashley and Kara must learn to work together if they stand any chance of escaping from Drake. It's important to note that, again, like, I think a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark's worked. Other ones I deeply considered were The Tale of Badge, The Last Dance, Jake the Snake, Closet Keepers. Episodes that, to me, are striving to be good, You know, like,
yeah.
I don't think Laser Maze like thinks it's bad or wants to be bad. I think it's just everything's weird. The transitions are weird. If you rewatch it, it's like George Lucas directed it or something. The music is weird for an Are You Afraid of the Dark? The twins who aren't twins are weird. The location feels close to realize, but not fully. You know what I mean? Like, kind of feels like you're in a Laser Maze place, but it also feels like you're on a set of a studio.
Yes. Yeah.
And how do we even get into the wackadoo ending? I mean, it totally just goes insane. Where they're like in this white lab room, and he's an alien, and he's got this master, and then they got to play him. It's a bonkers episode that I really appreciate that it's going for it, even though I know it's not like fully successful. I think the reason I love it so much is because it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely weird. Just kind of a jumbled mess is how I remember it. But it's one of those episodes that I just have like such high expectations from the title, Laser Maze. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be
even
amazing.
The title's weird.
Yeah. And it just like, I do give them credit for mashing a bunch of craziness all together, and like making it sort of work.
Yeah.
But bizarre.
Yeah, every beat is weird. I mean, like starting with the karate match, and then like this Bob Odenkirk lookalike like stalking them in the hallway, recruiting them to this Laser Maze place. Everything about it really stays with me. That's the other thing. Like all these episodes, I think there's something about them that the weirdness stays with me a little bit.
God, that set just so disappointing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be more. I don't know. But it is weird.
Yeah. I think about Laser Maze a lot. I would
probably more than any other person on the planet.
Yes,
I mean,
I would.
If you're thinking about it at all,
yeah, I would put money on it. I'm trying to think, like, maybe more than the people who acted it or directed it. Like, definitely the director, because I'm sure whoever directed it directed a million things.
Yeah, probably.
So,
maybe,
is this the most important thing about me as a human, that I think about the tale of the Laser Maze more than any other human on Earth?
Probably not.
Should I get a Laser Maze tattoo?
Maybe, yeah. You should probably do that.
Yeah, okay. Oh boy. All right.
All right. Well, my number 3 is Rocko's Modern Life, Magic Meatball.
Oh.
Work. They're gonna wear me out. I make so many decisions. You'd think I was running this company. No! Meatball! Meatball, are you okay? Ow. No! Cough, sputter, cough. No!
Love this episode. Mr. Big Head is up for a promotion at Conglamo, and on his way to his office, one of his fellow employees throws a magic meatball, kind of like a magic 8-ball, at him as like a joke. And he starts the job, which is like a go nowhere, like impossible job.
Yeah.
And he finally, like, after he's there till 2 a.m. trying to figure out how to answer these sheets, which is also kind of bizarre. These like questions that he's answering are just like yes and no questions. But he finally relies on the magic 8-ball to answer, and it all starts working out, and he starts getting promoted like crazy, and then he accidentally breaks the magic 8-ball, and it like comes to life, and he's trying to like make it happy so that it'll answer his question. And
the meatball is just so miserable. I love it.
Yes. And I just love how much this escalates so quickly into Ed finally agreeing to marry the meatball, and finally like his boss like walking into the room as Ed's like pleading with the meatball, like, the broken meatball on his desk, like just made up in a bridal gown. And just like the look of his boss's face when he sees him, and he's like on his knees pleading and crying.
Haven't I given everything?
Oh my gosh, it's just so good. Such like a weird concept, but it's like a weird one-off too, because just following Mr. Big Head at work.
Yeah.
The whole thing is bizarre, like the escalation of the meatball turning real, and oh my god, this whole episode, like such a bizarre one that works, I think.
Yeah, I think I don't have Rocco on my list, but like I think the strangest episodes of Rocco are there is almost always a big head involved, in my opinion.
Yeah, you could be right. Yeah.
They seem a bit more outrageous.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good one. I love Magic Meatball. Yeah. Cool. My number 3 is an episode of a show that I hadn't watched for a very long time, but something deep down in my gut told me watch it. This is the pilot of the show Animorphs.
Ooh.
Which is called My Name is Jake.
It is done. The power of change is in your flesh.
Change? What kind of change?
You need only to touch a creature to acquire its DNA pattern and change your form.
Change our form? You mean we can change into animals?
Exactly. You can become any animal you touch and acquire, but remember, when you change, you must return to your human form within 2 Earth hours.
Why? What happens after 2 hours?
You will be trapped within that animal form forever.
And this is the IMDb synopsis. Sometimes weird things happen to people. Just ask Jake. He might tell you about the night he and his friends saw the strange light in the sky. He may even tell you what happened when they realized the light was only a plane from another planet. Here's where Jake's story gets a little weird. It's where they're told that the human race is under attack and given the chance to fight back. Now Jake, Rachel, Cassie, Tobias, and Marco have the power to morph into any animal they choose. And they must use that power to outsmart an evil greater than anything the world has ever seen. This episode is wackadoo. It is, like the edits are really weird. It'll like go between regular speed frames to slow motion for like no reason. We start in an arcade where the kids have their dog with them. Like the whole catalyst of the show is they've brought their dog to the arcade, and the dog runs away from the arcade into this like industrial wasteland, and they chase the dog all the way there. It's very weird. The show is overdubbed. Like the ADR is really bad. If anybody out there likes the movie The Room, it's kind of like watching that. I think if you were like in an altered state, if you were drunk or something and you were watching this, your brain would like not be able to handle how weird it is. There's like intense close-ups of alien eyes, again Power Ranger like alien costumes and puppets, dialogue that asks it asks a lot of you. Like the dialogue in this episode assumes that you've like read the entire book series, I think. There's monster shadows, amulets, a principal with metal tip boots who's secretly an alien, and they know that because he itches his legs. Like this is the like Pete and Pete weird stuff where they're like, oh, the principal itches his leg in a certain way with his boot. Yeah, it was just so much stranger than I remembered it being. I can't remember much of the rest of the series, but I think if I saw this episode then, I would have had no idea what to make of it.
I remember the show coming out, and I just could never get into it. I think there's something about that concept that is just not enough to me. It's like, I mean, there's a lot going on in there, but it's not. None of it's like bizarre enough or something.
Yeah.
It's like they turn into animals. Okay. That's it's semi interesting idea, but what beyond, and I don't know. They made it alien. It just.
But I think this is what makes it so weird. Is that like it's the idea that it has is really strange.
Yeah.
And the execution of it is so odd that they just like mesh together in this way that makes me feel weird.
Yeah. You know what it seems like? It's like somebody at the publishing company or whatever was like, here's the top few buzzwords for kids. Like, this is what kids like: animals, aliens. Like, how do we mash all these things together?
Yeah, like Power Rangers is real hot.
Yeah.
It definitely has that feel. I was on YouTube to see if I could find any comments, and people love this show. There's one of the video, because you can watch the pilot on YouTube. There's like 3 different versions of it, and one of the pilots has like 500 comments, and almost everyone is like, bring the show back, reboot it, like do it again.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm I guess so cynical that I'm sitting there being like, where's all the people making fun of this?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
People love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't heard much praise for it, but
okay.
I trust they're out there, the fans.
Number 2?
My number 2, I went down all the Are You Afraid of the Darks, and I was really thinking, what is for me the ultimate weirdness episode?
You got to have one, right? I mean, you got to.
Yeah. And I don't know how you'll feel about it, but I finally decided it's Renegade Virus.
Wow.
Dad? I'm dreaming or something real strange is going on.
Well, son, you're not dreaming.
So, I guess that leaves us with something strange.
It's just like the concept of it is the least weird part about it, which is like you go into virtual reality. Okay. But then the kid, like, if you haven't seen the episode, just in case, the kid goes into virtual reality, gets stuck there with this virus who's like a creature who's trying to keep him in the game, and eventually gets out. But the everything about the execution of this episode is just so weird in the best ways. Like, it's one of those things where I feel like the people that were in charge of making this episode just went for broke. They're like, how do we just make a really great one? The look of the virus, amazing, so bizarre. I mean, arguably the bizarrest looking villain in Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
The way that his hand is a computer plug.
Oh, so cool.
So and gross looking, but it's awesome. Just the virtual reality world was a great idea. It's like, I figured they thought, how do we use the real world, because we only have so much budget,
Yeah.
And it feels like really weird and creepy. It's like the regular world, but just slightly different. Nobody's there. And of course, the classic classroom scene where he's it's like he's in a dream, kind of, with the teacher asking bizarre questions, and the camera angles in this episode are bizarre.
One of the most critical shots in Are You Afraid of the Dark history, him going up the banister.
Oh yes, of course. And the guy who plays the virus, amazing job. Just incredible. Also, one of my favorite weird shots from any Nickelodeon thing: the giant bike lock, the giant lock on his bike. Yeah. So ridiculous. So I just think all the elements of this episode, it could have been just the most boring, dumb thing, as we've seen so many shows do with virtual reality. But it just they nailed it and turned it into this weird horror I don't know, like perfect, bizarre short.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely does the thing of it's so weird that like you could never forget it if you want it.
Yeah.
You know, once you've seen it, it's there.
Yeah.
Great pick. And that was close to what the people picked for this episode, so it's definitely it's on our minds.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, my number 2 is what I referenced at the start when I screamed "Winds Howl." It is also a pilot episode. It is the pilot for the show 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd.
Oh boy.
The episode is called Tagged.
Change! Give it a rest, man. If you're trying to freak me out, I don't scare easy.
Winds
That's not bad.
All you cause is pain and strife, so now you're doomed to live a dog's life. A dog you'll be with fur and fleas until you do 100 good deeds.
What's happening to me?
Schoolyard bully Eddie McDowd is punished by a man called the Drifter because of his behavior. The Drifter plans to make him pay for his wrongdoing and turns him into an Australian Shepherd Siberian Husky mix, informing him that he would have to do 100 good deeds before he could be changed back. Besides the Drifter, the only one who can hear him talk is Justin Taylor, who is the last kid Eddie McDowd bullied. And then in this episode, that Eddie, as the dog, is brought to a shelter. He is then adopted by the kid he bullied, Justin's family, and so Justin can hear him, but nobody else can. This is another episode with insane ADR. Like everything is recorded over. Again, right from the start, like other dogs that are talking. There's just a dog called Salvador. It's a pug. He talks like a 1940s gangster. The CGI in this episode just like reeks of Nintendo 64. It just looks really janky. I didn't remember this, but they never show you Eddie McDowd. Do you remember this? He's only shot in shadow.
Yeah.
So that's also very weird.
That's like the most interesting thing about the show to me.
Interesting,
but just that little
interesting, but intensely weird. He like throws a rock at a car and the car explodes. This Jeff Bridges looking maniac comes from the flames and curses him. That's when he yells "Winds Howl," and it's freaking psychotic stuff. And I kind of loved it. Like I don't know. Also, 17 minutes into the episode, Danny Tamborelli shows up.
Whoa.
It was a very weird watch. Not at all how I remembered it. Again, it's a different from the weird you're talking about. I think maybe people expected more that type, but in my head, to me, like the weird I like is the stuff that's like, what were they thinking when they made this? You know what I mean? Yeah. And Eddie McDowd may be, well, obviously the second best example of like what was everybody from the studio to Nickelodeon to the act, like what was everybody thinking when they were making this?
So it sounds like you might be converted to a Eddie McDowd fan.
You know, actually what happened was when the episode ended, I did like think to myself, there's no way on earth I could ever watch another one of these. It was weird. Like it served its purpose of me being like, what is going on here? But no, totally unenjoyable. Like another thing that does not hold up about it, that makes it even weirder in 2022, is the blasting ska music that is its soundtrack. A very weird choice. It's because ska music, makes you feel happy, and a lot of the times the music was playing when like something dramatic was happening. It was not the best choice.
Wow. Okay. Might be the only time we see Eddie McDowd on a list of anything.
When this list was done, I was like, this is just never going to happen again.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Yep, tagged. All right, number 1. What is it, Andrew?
Yeah, my number 1. This was one I knew, like, kind of off the bat that this was probably going to be it. It's an Invader Zim episode called Dark Harvest.
Hey, where's your hall pass?
Say, you're full of organs, aren't you?
Why, yes. Yes, I am.
And you wouldn't notice if you were, say, missing a few?
Probably not.
No idea what's it about.
In this episode, it's like you're following Dib, really, which is the kid that's always after him, you know? And Zim gets called to the nurse's office because he has head pigeons.
Yeah.
Already awesome and bizarre choice. And Dib gets in his head saying, like, they'll find out that you're an alien when they discover that you don't have any human organs. So Zim gets it in his head, like, he's got to start collecting organs so that he looks human. So he uses this, like, you know, alien technology to start replacing kids' organs with just, like, random objects. And he takes the organs for himself. And he starts, Dib's going after him, but he starts getting, like, just huge with organs. Like, he's just filled with all these organs from all these kids, and everybody's getting sick and is in a, you know, terrible way without their organs. Anyway, it's just grotesque. Like, Zim's constantly, like, you can see the organs, like, piling up inside his mouth. And it turns into, like, a monster movie kind of by the end of it, where Zim's, like, just stalking Dib, trying to get his organs. And finally, in the end, they both end up in the nurse's office, and she's impressed with how many organs Zim has, and ends up thinking that Dib is some kind of weird alien or creature because he's, like, mooing instead of his heart beating or whatever. Just such a, like, over the top, so weird and grotesque of an idea. I can't believe this got through. And, like, whoever is in charge of accepting ideas or whatever, like, I mean, this is just insane. Taking all these organs from these kids, and it just, like, gets so gross and weird. One of those episodes that, like, just seared into my brain.
Man, I'm just not familiar at all, but it sounds pretty, like, the visuals you're describing sound pretty intense.
It's very funny too, in a weird way, but man, just, like, it just always stuck with me. It's like, what the hell is happening here?
Invader Zim, and what's the episode called?
It's called Dark Harvest.
Dark Harvest. Okay, I'm looking to see. Is Invader Zim streaming? Oh, it's on Paramount Plus. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I will check that episode out. That's cool. Well, people listen. I have a feeling that maybe people have not. Maybe my list is not going to be popular. My number 1 pick.
maybe.
Yeah. You know what's
there
interesting?
Is a certain. Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's a certain group of people that I think that, like, appreciate this is so terrible that it's, like, kind of good stuff, which I feel like this list kind of fits into.
Yeah. And if, let's see, Andrew, if that's my criteria, that, like, the shows I'm picking are so that make me feel so weird that I like them, what do you think my number 1 is going to be?
Oh my god! Oh, I want to say 15.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I was just I was hoping it was going to show up on your list, but then I was like, man, I don't know what episode it would be. You know?
Well, you're right on the money. My pick is every episode of 15.
Fine. If she doesn't want to be a friend, she'll be an enemy. and pay for this.
15. Just when I thought Dylan was... I just don't know what the guy's thinking about. Unquestionably 15.
I'm sorry, but sometimes I think I'm the only sane person at Hillside. You know what I mean?
Nick's high school saga continues with all new episodes of 15 every Sunday at 5:30, 4:30 Central.
There's no, so I did actually start watching them, and they're just so consistently weird. You know what I mean? Like every frame of every episode, with every bit of dialogue, registers to me as like the oddest television I've ever watched. I wrote down, as if David Lynch made a teen soap series but didn't know he was David Lynch and made it with total sincerity and not an ounce of purposeful peculiarity.
Yes,
yeah. And what was that website that we used to watch? Nick Rewind?
Nick Reboot?
Reboot. Nick Reboot. Yeah. That was the first time I really remember getting into it.
Yeah.
Oh, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, it has since been shut down, but there is another site that's like similar-ish. It's called Swimelodian. It has like shows from both Nickelodeon and Adult Swim.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the first site, because I remember reaching out to you almost immediately being like, do you know what 15 is? And I think your reaction at the time was like, oh, I can't stand when that comes on the site. Like,
yes. And what was funny also was when I started watching that, like, everybody on the chat that was watching at the same time, every time 15 came on, it was like, yes, I love this. I'm like, what is going on?
Yes, those are my people. Yeah, I was fixated from the start, and not for any reason I can really discern. In fact, I think maybe I love it because I can't figure out why I'm drawn to it. It's really in a class of its own. Like, just every choice on the show is, to me, stranger than the last, and there's no one episode that's an exception. You know, there's not one episode of 15 you can watch where you're like, well, that was normal. Yeah.
There's something really attractive about the, like, making everything 100% dramatic.
Yes.
Like, it sucks you in somehow. Yes. You're like, it doesn't matter how dumb the thing is. You're like, wow, that is upsetting or whatever.
Yes. It's shot like Welcome Freshmen, but there's no audience. It's dead silent, and like every shot is the camera slowly zooming in on whatever the drama is. You know, like, it's just there's nothing like it. I think we've done our best to be champions for the show. If you haven't watched it at this point, I don't think we're going to convince you, but it is available in full on Amazon Prime. The show's called 15, and again, you can really watch any episode. Go ahead.
That in itself is amazing. Like, of shows that just aren't available at all.
Right. Pete and Pete.
This entire show, is out there for anybody who wants it.
Yeah, I think that has to be Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, probably.
Which he's great as Billy. And that's the other thing. The characters are so... they're not human, but they are, like, you can't stop watching them. Like, I've never met anybody who acts like any of these characters.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. You know, it is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah. So 15. All right, let's go down the list again in case people haven't seen some of these and might want to mark it down.
Yeah. Mine was number 5, Tree of Icus, Real Monsters. Number 4, Jerry the Belly Button Elf, Ren and Stimpy. Number 3, Magic Meatball, Rocko's Modern Life. Number 2, Renegade Virus, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And number 1, Dark Harvest, Invader Zim.
Yeah. And then my number 5, Land of the Lost, Shang the Terrible. Number 4, Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Laser Maze. Number 3, Animorphs, My Name is Jake. Number 2, 100 D's for Eddie McDowd, Tagged. And number 1, every episode of 15. I don't think either of our lists are probably maybe what people are anticipating, which I like.
Yeah.
I'm going to read some of the listeners' picks, and then if you have any feelings here, just jump in. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Alexandra gave us a couple picks. She mentioned Pete and Pete, Space Geeks, and Johnny Unitas.
Yeah. Very, very bizarre.
Neither of us picked Pete and Pete, but it is probably the definitive oddball show.
It definitely like does it the best.
Yes.
I think it feels like so good and purposeful on Pete and Pete.
Yeah.
That I strayed away from it just because of that. I was like, I don't know, looking for something that was like even more outrageous or something.
Right. She also mentioned Rugrats in the Inside Story in the Dreamtime.
Yeah.
Both very good. Ben mentioned Rocko's Modern Life, Flu in Enza.
Oh yeah, the one where he's like talking to his vomit or like
he's just like
pieces
super
of
sick. Yeah. Goblin Parade mentioned Angry Beavers, The Day the World Got Really Screwed Up, which I think is a good pick. I mean, it's of course really striving to do something, but it's pretty far out. Zach Brown mentioned any spooky Hey Arnold episode.
Yeah, that's
for sure. Our friend Vaughn mentioned Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of the Last Dance, which we've mentioned with her a couple times. I mean, that is I think more in the vein of like a laser maze of like what's going on here.
For sure.
Our friend Manny picked Hey Arnold, Operation Ruthless.
Nice.
Ketchup Spectre picked literally any episode of Ren and Stimpy, for example, Stimpy's cartoon show.
Yeah.
Our friend Vince mentioned Space Cases, Tie Me Kangaroo Down Court, which I want you to know I watched as an option. Not quite, there's a couple shows I want to mention here. I watched a couple episodes of Alex Mack for this. I watched a couple episodes of Shelby Woo. I watched a couple episodes of Space Cases and a couple episodes of Hey Dude. And the thing about those shows is they're just too consistent. Like their tone is nailed in.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is not really weird as much as it's just like methodical.
Yeah.
But Space Cases is fun. Underrated. Alyssa mentions Keenan and Kel. Two heads are better than one. Damien mentions The Tale of Badge. Very, very weird.
Yeah, for sure.
Adventure USA. Every episode of Ren and Stimpy. Shay mentions Ferguson Explains It All. A classic episode. Justin mentions Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of the Gruesome Gourmets. And while I love it, I think what they're trying to do there is purposely weird, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, they're trying. Yeah.
They're trying. Yeah, they're trying.
I mean, but it's also like a mess, sort of. So
yeah,
I mean, it sort of falls into your like category, actually, for me.
Sure, it just edges on too good.
I disagree, but
Corey mentions When Arnold Visits Arnie.
Oh, yeah, like his cousin Arnie, I think.
Yeah, that one has some weird animation, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I feel like Arnie looks weird.
Yeah,
like a weird version of Arnold.
Yeah. Kenny picked The Tale of the Super Specs.
Yeah.
Invader Beans picked Angelica's Worst Nightmare. That's a good one. Splat Attack picked Doug's Nightmare on Jumbo Street, The Tale of the Full Moon, and In the Dreamtime, Rugrats. Full Moon is another one that's like, I feel like that's Are You Afraid of the Dark on full quirky mode, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Tim picked Rocko's Modern Life, Leapfrogs.
Oh,
yeah. Brett Wilson picked Chucky's Wonderful Life, one of my favorite Rugrats. 35 Hours, Pete and Pete, and Scrubbin' Down Under. Slimy's Dream picked The Tale of the Closet Keepers. Are You Afraid of the Dark? That is a very weird one. Brad Draws Stuff picked Doug's Fan Club, When Todd Almost Gets Hit by an 18-wheeler. Annie picked Sewer King, Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
She also picked What the Big People Do in Rugrats and Frankendoodle and SpongeBob.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, really enjoy What the Big People Do. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Josh Pickens, heck yes, he said Animorphs, all of it, but specifically the pilot. So he's with me. Cynthia said SpongeBob in general. It's a talking sponge and underwater squirrel.
Yeah.
Yep. Ethan mentioned the correct answer is the episode when Stimpy's fart becomes sentient and runs away. And finally, Amy Marie mentions angry beavers spraying their scent everywhere.
Yeah. Great episode.
Yeah. All right, let's do close calls.
Okay. Well, my official close call is I was a teenage Gary, SpongeBob.
Oh, wow.
Okay. In this one, SpongeBob leaves to go on a jellyfish convention or whatever, and Squidward is charged with keeping track of or taking care of Gary, but he forgets to feed him. So when SpongeBob comes back, like he ends up getting a doctor to come over, and the doctor prescribes some snail plasma, and Squidward accidentally stabs SpongeBob with the snail plasma, and SpongeBob starts turning into a snail, and then eventually Squidward gets poked with it and starts turning into a snail. So finally, in the end, they're all like snails, like Gary.
Yeah.
Just a weird concept, and I love seeing them, like SpongeBob freak out as he's starting to change. Yeah, just one of those ones that always stuck with me. Like, that's bizarre. I feel like not quite enough of the episode was about the change, but still, I really like it.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I love that one.
Thanks.
Tim mentioned it in his pick. My close call is Rocko's Modern Life Leapfrogs. This episode, this is the episode where Mrs. Bighead tries to seduce Rocco. I think it was pulled pretty quickly from not re-airing.
That's weird. And I have read that, but I remember seeing it all the time as a kid.
That's what I felt like too, though. Yeah, I'm with you, because every time I watched it, it made me uncomfortable. That is why I'm picking it. I mean, it is so. It's pretty intense. I mean, like, she's really throwing herself at Rocco.
Yeah.
And I felt like as a kid, I just didn't even know what to do with that. I felt like, I don't know. I almost to the point of like, am I attracted to Mrs. Bighead? Is this like? I don't know. It's like, it was just so confusing. I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be watching this. This is a weird premise, but also, dang.
Somehow it never, like, that totally makes sense. It just never, like, bothered me on any level.
Uh-huh.
And if anything, I was, like, sort of bored by it as a kid. I was like, is this, it's just not my favorite episode. Not making me laugh that much. I was just kind of like,
Okay.
But I can appreciate it for sure as like a bizarre thing to be showing kids.
Yeah, keep in mind I was going to a Catholic school in an intensely Catholic house, watching a toad in lingerie trying to get a wallaby to sleep with it. So like, it was a lot for me.
You know what? I had a couple other. I would just wanted to mention close calls. Ren and Stimpy, I Love Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, Stimpy falls in love with like raw plucked headless chicken from the store, and Ren's trying to cook it the whole time, and it's just very weird, just over the top, kind of bizarre. So I loved that one. Also, Rocco, Nothing to Sneeze At. This is where Mrs. Bighead, like, having no nose, gets like a nose job, but like gets a nose basically, and discovers that Mr. Bighead smells awful, and just a bizarre premise, like Mrs. Bighead getting a new nose. very strange.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Oh, that was
okay. Well, do you want to jump into Ferguson?
Sure. For me, I mean, there was only one Ferguson, and it was Last Dance.
Wow. Okay.
Watched it today again, just to refresh myself. Just such a weird everything basically about this episode. It almost feels like it wasn't designed as an Are You Afraid of the Dark, but as like something else that was like retrofitted to fit the show or something. Just everything about it feels off. It almost feels like more like a weird horror, like Z 80s horror movie than it does a kid's show.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like it just feels bizarre. It feels like the ultimate. Like I almost sort of am starting to like it because it's so bizarre. But I don't know, man. All the characters weird. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit.
It's an uncomfortable episode.
For sure.
Yes, everything about what it's doing is questionable. It's not a good Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, but it is, I can't remember who emailed us, maybe Ethan or someone emailed us saying like, maybe it's one best watch with a group.
Sure. Of course.
And I think that could be the case there, because watching it alone is not fun. And that is one Vaughn has, I think, long sought to talk about with us. So at some point we're going to we're going to talk about this turd. We're going to uncover it. All right. Well, my Ferguson, and I feel good about it in the sense of a Ferguson of something I love, but I think this is an example of it not doing it well. I picked the episode of The Adventures of Pete and Pete, 35 Hours.
Oh, okay.
This is the first episode of season 3. I think it's pretty agreed upon that season 1 and 2 of Pete and Pete are, well, I guess I shouldn't say everybody, but I think we agree that season 1 and 2 of Pete and Pete are like almost flawless. Yeah. And this is a weird first episode of season 3, a season that I think is a little inconsistent. And I think what I don't like about 35 Hours is the fact that it's being so overtly weird. Like this premise that they accidentally sold their house to this family feels, and then this family is like way even bigger than the normal Pete and Pete weirdness. It's an episode to me that like doesn't really fully work. And I think the fact that they're like, it seems too self-aware of its own weirdness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think it does feel a little bit off. Though I do love the Wrigley 500, like the whole idea of that, and them just being left alone. I like the concept. But yeah, I especially the family feels just a little something.
It feels like they're going too hard for it. Like they always found the weirdness naturally. I mean, Pete and Pete is easily the most successful show to me on Nickelodeon as far as going for weird and achieving it.
Yeah.
But this feels like it's so in your face that it's like, oh, well, this is not the subtlety that I've come to love.
Sure.
Okay. I've got one YouTube comment. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
What would YouTube comments do?
So this was from the YouTube page for 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd for the episode tagged. And the comment is very simple. It simply said, "Shame it ended. Eddie had 40 more deeds left."
Yep.
Never got that chance.
I do wonder how it ended. I haven't looked into it to see if he like got changed back.
Well, I think it got canceled. So
yeah. I'm just curious if they had like any kind of wrap up.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't think so, but I would not dare to find out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to do some emails?
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
We heard from Nikki earlier, but we got, we're a little behind here. We got some more. I'm going to read one here from Brandon. He said, new listener. Hello, Gut Buckets. My name is Brandon. I'm relatively new to the podcast, but I can already say I'm a huge fan of Big Orange Couch. I think it is amazing to find a community of people who are just as passionate about 90s Nickelodeon as I am. I was born in 1998, so unfortunately I did not grow up in the beloved decade, but having an older brother and sister grow up in the 90s and the kind of things I got into as a kid. I watched more 90s Nick than modern day programming when I was little, so that is why my favorites growing up were Rugrats, Cat Dog, Legends of the Hidden Temple, All That, and Kenan and Kel. It wasn't until high school where I went deeper into 90s Nick where I found shows like Salute Your Shorts and of course Pete and Pete, the latter of which influenced me so much at the time that my senior quote in the yearbook was, "Farewell, my little Vikings."
That's awesome.
Even now, as an almost college graduate, I am still finding new 90s Nick shows to watch and fall in love with. I discovered the pod back in January of this year when I began my internship. As a sign language interpreter, I have to drive far to different job sites with a minimum drive time of an hour. I wasn't a podcast listener before, but after being tired of the same songs on the radio, I decided to give y'all a try, and I haven't looked back since. As of now, I'm on episode 170-ish, and I'm looking forward to the rest of y'all's episodes and possibly send y'all my own opinions on certain episodes. It feels like getting together to talk about 90s Nick with a group of friends. With fascinating topics, countless inside jokes, and never-ending cycle of entertaining guests, Melissa and Chris are always a joy to listen to. I find myself enjoying the pod more than I could have ever imagined. Below, I have my top 10 Nickelodeon shows. Feel free to roast my choices, but I stand by them. 10. Animorphs. Yes, I'm serious. Number 9. The Journey of Alan Strange. I also watched a couple of those. Like that show. 8. Rocko's Modern Life. 7. Clarissa Explains It All. 6. Salute Your Shorts. 5. Real Monsters. Hey. 4. Legends of the Hidden Temple. Like it. 3. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Too low. 2. Hey Arnold. And number 1, The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Good list.
He says his favorite BOC episodes are the Nickelodeon Awards Show, Vacant Lot versus Dark Dragon, and his close call is right in episode Doug, Maximum Klotz. And his Ferguson, Year in Review 2017 to 2021. Only episodes I skip because I don't want to relive the terrible reality of modern entertainment, politics, and all-around bad times.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. All right. He suggests that we cover any Animorphs episode. Well, I hope, Brandon, I gave you a little taste. Just a taste to keep you going today. He said, apologies for the long email, but I want to express my sincere gratitude for this podcast and what you do in the name of 90s culture. Sincerely, Brandon, lifelong Purple Parrots fan.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, I like it.
Wow. Yeah, one of the top shows and Purple Parrots. I like it.
I love it.
That feels like a little unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, great letter. Really, really nice. This next one comes from Elise. She says, "Hello, gut buckets and blowholes. This is my first time writing into the show. I am a relatively new listener, but I am quickly moving through episodes. I very much enjoyed taking a trip back into my childhood with you all. Classic Nickelodeon holds a very special place for me, and I am naturally a very nostalgic person to begin with. I was an only child until the age of 6, so TV really was a friend of mine. I was very young, but vividly remember shows like Pete and Pete, Salute Your Shorts, and Ren and Stimpy. I was born in 1988, so imagine a 4, 5, 6-year-old watching some of this. Good old-fashioned early 90s parenting. Nowadays, Nickelodeon holds a different special part of my heart. In 2016, my younger brother Nick passed away suddenly in a car accident. He and I were 6 years apart in age, and for a long time the thing we had the most in common was Nickelodeon and TV and movies in general. Even as we grew up, we would continue to quote some of our favorite lines from the shows. One that always sticks with me is from Rocko's Modern Life when Rocko needed a new job and was a plumber's assistant. The line was, "Hey, could you get that? Thanks a lot." The plumber's pants kept falling down to expose his giant butt crack, and Rocco's job was to pull them back up. We would quote that in so many different situations. Oddly enough, after my brother's passing, I went on a first date with my now boyfriend. We were talking about old shows we liked, including Nicktoons. Out of the blue, my new boyfriend says, "Hey, could you get that? Thanks a lot." And I almost burst into tears. No one other than my brother had ever quoted that specific line to me before, and I felt like it was a sign from my brother that this guy was a good one. 5 years later, and I'd say that was a good choice. I mostly just wanted to tell you how much I enjoy the show, and thank you for reminding me of some of the long-lost gems to come from Nickelodeon, such as I Dropped the Screw in Tuna, and Hit Me, and everything Are You Afraid of the Dark? Keep up the great work, Elise. Wow.
Man, thanks, Elise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So
super.
So sorry to hear about your brother, but incredible that you found someone. That's wonderful.
Yeah, amazing and really thoughtful and touching letter.
Yeah.
And I mean, if somebody randomly quoted one of my top Nickelodeon quotes like that,
could you imagine if a girl walked up to you and
I
went,
really
"Hit
cannot.
Me." Like, will you marry me?
I could. That would be incredible. I would.
Yeah. Or the traveling, blocking.
Oh my god! I would have to assume at this point that they were like listening to the podcast.
Just stalking. Yeah. But thank you for writing us.
That was really nice, Elise. Thank you. Yeah, it's great hearing from everybody. Really.
Yeah. All right. Well, Andrew, what are we up to next?
Next time we're talking a big one. The Tale of the Renegade Virus.
Oh my god.
Finally.
Yes. So excited. We've talked about this episode a ton.
Yeah.
Just here and there, but it'll be nice to really lock it in.
Yeah, dig deep into that baby.
Oh my gosh. The visuals, the dialogue, just everything about it is so much fun.
Can't wait.
Yep. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, we are on Twitter at BOC Podcast. We're on Instagram at Orange Couch Podcast. You can email us like Nikki, Brendan, or Elise did at orangecouchpodcast@gmail.com. And you can hear us on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, Podbean, tell a friend, maybe. We're pretty far in, if you haven't told your friend yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll see all you magic meatballs next time.
You've got a strange effect on me, and I like it. You've got a strange effect on me, and I like it. 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 W-A-R-T, Ward Radio, Wellsville.
I think also, I think we're hard on all shows. I don't think we're... you know, we love 90s Nick, but we're also not here to, just worship everything. I'm certainly not going to be worshiping the shows I'm talking about today.
Okay.